What is good, y'all? It's your boy Mixtape Moth. Please like and subscribe to the channel. But today I do want to talk about two hip hop pioneers that unfortunately passed over the last couple of days. That's DJ Mister Cee and Rico Wade. Let me start with Mister Cee, the finisher. He was a pioneer on the New York DJ scene. He was straight out of Brooklyn and repped the borough his whole life. And Mister Cee was known for breaking artists in a vein similar to K-Slay, who we had also lost a couple years back. Now, Mister Cee at one time was Big Daddy Kane's DJ, but then he would go on to be a force in New York radio as well as the mixtape DJ scene in the early to mid 90s. So in the early to mid 90s, DJ Mister Cee was one of the biggest New York DJs alongside, let's say, Kid Capri and Ron G. Some of Mister Cee's most famous mixtapes would have to be The Best of Biggie, The Best of Mobb Deep, and The Best of Redman. His Best of Biggie is generally regarded as a classic mixtape. Now, throughout his career, Mister Cee showed love to up-and-coming artists. He made his mixtapes, and he did a lot of work behind the scenes as far as putting artists on. And many know that Mister Cee was the main person responsible for shining the spotlight on Biggie and putting him on. Yeah, so overall, Mister Cee was an unsung figure in New York hip-hop circles, and he was just highly respected by his peers. It's a shame that Mister Cee didn't get to receive more flowers when he was alive, but if you know, then you know that Mister Cee was a New York legend and an important figure in the DJ world, an important figure in old school New York hip hop, and just on the mixtape scene in general. Now going to Rico Wade, he was a legendary pioneer of the Atlanta rap sound. He was a producer who was 1/3 of the very slept on production crew known as Organized Noize. Now, if you have ever heard just one or two Outkast albums, then there's a good chance that you probably have seen the name Rico Wade, or, you know, I've heard or seen Organized Noize, his name attached. And there was also a dope Netflix documentary about Organized Noize that I would highly recommend if it's still available. But Rico Wade was the producer who was basically the mastermind or the architect behind this Organized Noize sound. The sound that gave birth to the Atlanta rap sound before the likes of, let's say, a T.I., a Gucci, or Jeezy. Now, for some perspective, in the late 80s and early 90s, there was more of a distinct East Coast sound and a distinct West Coast sound than there was a Southern sound. Of course, you had Rap-A-Lot out of Houston, and they laid down the early foundations for that dirty South sound. Then there was Luke and 2 Live Crew in Florida, but that was a completely different aesthetic altogether. And then there was 8Ball and MJG and early 3-6 Mafia in Memphis. So there was the Houston, the Florida, and the Memphis sounds, all of which were very distinct. But there was no set Atlanta rap sound until Rico Wade and Organized Noize stepped on the scene in the early to mid 90s. And Rico Wade and his production team were responsible for doing the majority of the Outkast, the Goody Mob, and Dungeon Family projects. And all of these mid to late 90s classics were actually recorded in Rico's mom's basement in Atlanta in a house known as the Dungeon, hence the name Dungeon Family. So in this dimly lit, smoky basement, Rico and his team were cooking up the backdrops for those Southern rap classics. Therefore, one can confidently say, without the musical genius and without the creativity of a Rico Wade and Organized Noize, the world would have never have heard an Outkast. They would have never heard a Goody Mob, never heard a Killer Mike, a Future, even TLC. So as a big fan of regional rap, personally, Organized Noize has always been one of my favorite production teams, and some of my favorite Southern hip hop albums came from that camp. I've always been into the Houston sound, the Memphis scene, and I still am. But I have to stress that there was nothing quite like that mid 90s production sound in Atlanta. At the end of the day, there would be no signature Atlanta sound if it wasn't for Rico Wade, who is definitely one of the most slept on producers in the game. Rest in peace to both DJ Mister Cee and Rico Wade. Thank you for your contributions. It's your boy Mixtape Moth. I'm signing out. It's peace and blessings.